How many people are in your professional network? Not your LinkedIn connections, your actual network, the people who could hire you, refer you, or bring you a deal. For most business service leaders, that number is somewhere around 5,000. Former clients, former colleagues, referral sources, industry contacts, people you've met at conferences, sat on panels with, served on boards with. Now, here's the arithmetic problem. How many of those 5,000 people can you realistically stay in meaningful contact with? Not a LinkedIn connection request that sits there, meaningful contact. The kind where they think of you first when a need arises. The answer is about 30, maybe 50 if you're really disciplined about it. So for 4,950 people in your network, including the former client who just moved to a company with a real need, the referral source who's actively looking for someone to recommend, the board member who's about to start an executive search, you are invisible. Not because they forgot you, because you stopped showing up. That's what this episode is about. 4 business service leaders who solved that arithmetic problem and the data behind how they did it. Welcome to Cultivating Executive Presence, a podcast for leaders who must lead in public. I'm Justin Asiri, CEO of Executive Presence, and your guide to stepping into the visibility your company needs, even when it's the last thing you want to do. Every week, we'll explore the strategies, frameworks, and mindset shifts that help leaders build influence without losing integrity. From finding what to say to making peace with being seen, this is where reluctant leaders learn to lead out loud. So take a deep breath and let's get started. Welcome to Cultivating Executive Presence. I'm Justin Asiri. I run a company called Executive Presence. We help leaders build visibility on LinkedIn. We've worked with over 400 senior leaders, and a significant portion of our work is in business services, executive search, staffing, consulting, professional services, financial services. And I've noticed something about business services that make it fundamentally different than every other industry we work in. In business services, you are the product. Let me say that again. You are the product. In software, the product is the code. In manufacturing, the product is the widget. In healthcare, the product is the treatment. But in business services, whether you're an executive search partner, a management consultant, an accountant, a staffing firm CEO, clients don't buy a service, they buy your judgment, your network, your experience, your ability to see things they can't. Which means trust is the entire game. Trust determines who gets the first call. Trust determines who gets the referral. Trust determines who wins the deal before anyone else even knows there's a deal to win. And here's the thing about trust in business services. It's built over time. It's built through repeated exposure. It's built through demonstrating expertise, sharing perspective, showing up consistently. The partners and consultants who dominate their markets aren't always the ones with the best credentials or the most experience. They're the most visible, the most trusted, the name that comes to mind first when a need arises. I think about this differently than most people in my position. Most LinkedIn consultants will tell you that visibility drives lead generation. And in tech or e-commerce, that's true. You're reaching strangers and converting them into leads. But in business services, that's the wrong frame entirely. In business services, you're not trying to reach strangers. You're trying to stay visible to people who already know you, people who've already worked with you, people who already trust you. The sale isn't about convincing someone you're good. It's about being top of mind when the need arises. But there's an arithmetic problem that makes that incredibly hard to do at scale. And that's what I want to talk about today. Let me paint the picture. You're a partner in an executive search firm, or you run a consulting practice, or you lead a staffing company. You've been in business for 15 years. Over those 15 years, you've built a network of thousands of people, clients you've served, candidates you've placed, executives you've advised, board members you've worked with, conference contacts, former colleagues, referral sources. Your LinkedIn might say 5,000 connections. Your CRM might have 3,000 contacts. Your phone might have 800 numbers. All of these people know you. All of them could, in theory, hire you, refer you, or bring you a deal. But you can't have 5,000 coffees. You can't make 5,000 check-in calls. You can't send 5,000 personal emails. The math doesn't work. So what happens? You stay genuinely close with about 30 people, your active clients, your best referral sources, the people you're working with right now, maybe 50 if you're religious about it. And for everyone else, the 4,950 people who could hire you or refer you, you're between engagements, you're between touch points, you're invisible. Now, think about what that costs you. Right now, somewhere in your network, a former client just moved to a new company and has a budget for exactly the service you provide. A referral source is having lunch with someone who needs what you do, and they can't remember your name because they haven't heard from you in 18 months. A board member is about to launch an executive search, and they're going to call whoever comes to mind first. And it's not going to be you because you haven't shown up in their feed since last year. Let me make this even more concrete. Imagine you're an executive search partner. You placed a CFO at a mid-market company 4 years ago. Great relationship. The search went well. The client was happy. You sent a holiday card last year. That's the extent of your recent contact. That CFO just got promoted to CEO. She now has a mandate to build out the entire C-suite. She needs a CRO, a CMO, a CHRO, 3 retained searches. That's probably $500,000 or more in fees. She's going to hire a search firm, and she's going to call whoever comes to mind first. If you've been showing up in her LinkedIn feed every week for the last 4 years, sharing perspectives on talent, on leadership transitions, on what great C-suites look like, you're the first call. If you sent a holiday card and disappeared, you're not even on the list. That's the invisible cost of the arithmetic problem. The deals you never know about because you weren't top of mind when the need arose. This is the arithmetic problem, and most business service leaders try to solve it with more effort, more coffees, more dinners, more conferences, more check-in calls, but effort doesn't scale. You can't outwork the arithmetic. LinkedIn solves it, not as a marketing channel, not as a sales tool, as an amplification layer that keeps you visible to your entire network, not just the 30 people you had time to call this month. One of the executives I work with put it perfectly. He said, executive search is ultimately bought, not sold. I don't need to convince anyone to hire me. I need to be the name they think of when they have a need. And LinkedIn is the only way to stand in front of 5,000 people consistently. Let me show you 4 business service leaders who figured this out with real data. Before the case studies, let me address the 3 mistakes I see business service leaders make over and over. Mistake number 1, relationships are built in person, not online. I hear this constantly from senior partners, and look, they're not wrong that in-person matters. The question isn't whether in-person is better, it's whether you can physically be in front of 5,000 people. You cannot. LinkedIn isn't replacing the dinner, it's replacing the 4,950 people you didn't have dinner with. It's the layer between engagements that keeps you visible when you're not in the room. Mistake number 2, I don't want to look like I'm selling. This one is real. Business service leaders have a legitimate concern about appearing promotional on LinkedIn. The fear is that posting feels transactional. And in a world where relationships are everything, transactional is poison. I had a managing partner tell me once, if I start posting on LinkedIn, my clients will think I'm desperate for business. And I said, no, if you start posting your perspective on the trends shaping their industry, your clients will think you're the smartest person in the room, which is why they hired you in the first place. But here's what the data shows. The highest performing business services content on LinkedIn is never a pitch. It's not hire us. It's not a case study with a CTA. It's perspective, it's generosity, it's giving away the thinking that makes clients want to hire you. One of the leaders I'm about to show you has over 100,000 followers and has never pitched on LinkedIn, not once. And he'll tell you giving away value is the sales strategy. Mistake number 3, my work speaks for itself. Maybe it does, to the 30 people you're actively working with. But what about the other 4,970 people? They have no idea what you're working on, what you think about their industry, or whether you're even still in business. Your work only speaks for itself if someone is in the room to hear it. And for 99% of your network, they're not in the room. I love this line from one of the partners I work with. He said, between engagements, I don't exist. He meant it as a confession, but it's actually a perfect description of the business services visibility gap. You're incredibly relevant when you're in front of a client, and you're invisible the moment the engagement ends. LinkedIn fills that gap. So let's start with the first case study, the Rainmaker. I've worked with a partner at a mid-size executive search firm for about 2 years. This is a firm that does retained search for senior leadership positions, CEOs, CFOs, board members, the kind of work where every placement is a six-figure engagement and every client relationship spans years. This partner is incredibly well connected, deep network in his industry, strong reputation, excellent track record. Clients who come back search after search, but like most search partners, he was relying entirely on his personal network and referrals, which worked until it didn't. Because personal networks have a ceiling, you eventually tap out the people who already know you and growth stalls. You hit a plateau where every new client requires a personal introduction, a warm referral, or a lucky meeting at a conference. And here's the thing about referrals and executive search. You don't control the timing. A referral source might have someone perfect for you, but if they don't think of you at the moment that conversation happens, the opportunity goes to someone else. Referrals are only as good as your recency in someone's mind. When we started working together, he was posting sporadically, maybe once or twice a month. No strategy, no consistency. The occasional article share or congratulatory comment, the kind of LinkedIn activity that's technically present but practically invisible. Here's what changed. Posting frequency went up 5.5 times, from sporadic to consistent. He built a voice around executive leadership, talent strategy, and what boards should look for when hiring. No pitching his firm, sharing the expertise that makes clients hire him in the first place. Follower growth increased 97%, nearly doubled his audience. And these aren't random followers. In executive search, your LinkedIn audience is your prospect list. Board members, CEOs, CHROs, heads of talent, every new follower is someone who might call you next. But here's the number that matters most. $400,000 in contracts directly tied to LinkedIn, not influenced by, not correlated with, directly tied. Specific clients who told him they found him through his content or who referenced a specific post when they called. And here's his quote, which I think captures the business services insight perfectly. Executive search is ultimately bought, not sold. I don't need to convince anyone. I need to be the name they think of. That's the arithmetic problem solved. He went from being top of mind for 30 people to being top of mind for thousands, and the pipeline followed. I want to double click on something about the content that worked for him. The posts that drove business weren't about his firm. They weren't about his placements. They weren't about his methodology. They were about his perspective on what great leadership looks like, what boards get wrong in succession planning, how to evaluate a CEO candidate, what the best CHROs do differently. He was giving away the thinking, and the people who valued that thinking became clients. In business services, your expertise is your product, and LinkedIn lets you demonstrate that expertise to 5,000 people instead of 30. Let's go into the second case study, the specialist, and this one has the single most compelling data point in our entire client base. I've worked with the CEO of a niche search firm for about 2 years. This is a very focused business. They specialize in one specific type of executive placement, not generalist search, a very defined niche with a very defined buyer. When we started, she had minimal LinkedIn presence, posting occasionally, no strategy. Her firm was growing through referrals and word of mouth, which is the default in niche professional services. And it was working, but slowly. The ceiling was how many people she could personally stay in touch with. Then one post changed everything. She published a piece sharing her perspective on a trend in her niche. It was well written, provocative, and spoke directly to the pain point her clients experience. It wasn't a pitch. It wasn't promotional. It was pure expertise generously shared. That post got 700,000 views, 700,000 on a LinkedIn profile that had been largely dormant. From that single post, she received a direct inquiry that became a $300,000 contract. One post, one contract. That alone paid for years of investment in LinkedIn. But here's what happened next, and this is the compound effect I keep on talking about. Within a year of that post, LinkedIn accounted for 15% of her annual revenue. Not from that one post alone, from the consistency that followed. She kept posting, she built on the momentum, the audience grew, the inquiries compounded. The following year, 3 of her company's largest deals came from LinkedIn. 3 of the largest, not from referrals, not from cold outreach, from content that demonstrated expertise. Now, I want to be honest about something. Not everyone is going to get 700,000 views on a post. That's an outlier, but the principle is not an outlier. Every business service leader has expertise that their market values. The question is whether you're sharing it where your market can see it. And here's what I think is the most important lesson from this case study. The 700,000 view post didn't come from nowhere. She'd been building the practice, building the expertise, building the perspective for years. LinkedIn just gave her a platform to share it. The content didn't create the expertise. The expertise was already there. LinkedIn just unlocked the distribution. I see this all the time with business service leaders. They have decades of expertise locked in their heads, pattern recognition, client wisdom, industry insight that would be enormously valuable if shared, but they've never had a channel for it. Conferences happen twice a year, articles get published occasionally, but LinkedIn is there every day. And the best business services content is just an expert sharing what they know. She went from being known by the people in her immediate network to being recognized as the definitive voice in her niche. And in business services, being the recognized expert in a niche is the most defensible, competitive advantage you can have. You can't out-advertise it. You can't outbid it. You have to out-expertise it, and that takes years. Her likes increased over 4, and her company was eventually acquired. And I have to believe that the market visibility she'd built a role in how that acquisition was valued. When you're the recognized authority in a niche, you're not just selling services, you're selling a brand. Third case study, the community builder. And this one challenges everything most business service leaders believe about LinkedIn. I've worked with the CEO of a staffing company that serves military veterans transitioning to civilian careers. About 20 posts a month, over 100,000 followers. Average of 687 likes per post. Posts that regularly hit the thousands. And he never pitches. Never, not once. Let me explain why this matters. His business has 2 audiences. On one side, veteran job seekers who need help finding civilian careers. On the other side, companies who want to hire veterans. Traditional marketing would say you need different messages for each audience, different channels, different strategies. He rejected all of that. He posts the same content for both audiences. Content about veteran career transitions, about what makes veterans exceptional employees, about the challenges of moving from military to corporate, about the skills that translate, about the companies doing it well. The veteran job seekers see this content and see an organization deeply embedded in the veteran community. They see expertise, they see trust, they see a partner who genuinely cares about the mission, not just the placement fee. And both audiences see the engagement from the other side. Hiring managers see thousands of veterans engaging with the content. Veterans see major employers liking and commenting. The community becomes the proof point. I asked him once about his content strategy, and he said something I've never forgotten. He said, "LinkedIn isn't my marketing channel, it's my community." That distinction matters enormously in business services. When you think of LinkedIn as a marketing channel, you default to promotional content. Here's what we do, here's why you should hire us, here's our latest win, and that content underperforms every time. When you think of LinkedIn as a community, you default to generous content. Here's what I've learned. Here's what I think about this trend. Here's how I can help you think about the problem. And the content compounds. His follower count tells the story. Over 100,000 people chose to follow his perspective. They're not following a company page. They're following a leader who gives away value every single day. And his quote captures the business services insight perfectly. Giving away value is the sales strategy. Think about that. In business services, your value is your expertise. And the instinct is to protect it, to hold it back, to save the good stuff for paying clients. But the leaders who dominate on LinkedIn do the opposite. They give it all away because the people who are going to do it yourself, we're never going to hire you anyway. And the people who see your expertise and think, I need that level of thinking on my side, those are your clients. There's a practical lesson here too. The community builder posts 20 times a month. That sounds like a lot, but he doesn't write all 20 posts from scratch. He has a system, a monthly call where we capture his ideas, our team that turns those ideas into content that sounds exactly like him. His actual time commitment is minimal, the output is enormous. And the 100,000 followers aren't vanity, they're a community. They're the proof that his approach works. When a Fortune 500 CHRO is considering which veteran staffing firm to partner with, and one of them has 100,000 followers and a body of content that demonstrates deep expertise and genuine care for the mission, that's not a close call. Last case study, the firm. And I saved this one last because it answers a question I get from every large professional service firm. How does this work at scale? I've worked with a managing partner at a global executive search firm, about 5,000 employees, offices in major cities around the world. This is one of the most respected names in professional services. And the challenge here is different from the other three case studies. The Rainmaker is a single partner. The specialist is a CEO. The community builder is a founder. They're all individuals, but the firm is an institution, and institutions have a different problem. The problem is this: at a large firm, there might be 200 consultants who should all be visible on LinkedIn, but most of them aren't posting. And the ones who are posting are doing it inconsistently with no strategy, no voice development, no measurement. So this managing partner made a decision. He was going to lead by example. He was going to show the firm what was possible by doing it himself. And then he was going to build the infrastructure for others to follow. His own results tell the story. Average likes per post went from 30 to 42 to 62, 66 over 3 consecutive years. That's compounding. Year over year, every post lands harder as credibility accumulates. The audience grows, the engagement deepens, the inbound increases. But the institutional impact is what makes this case study unique. After seeing his results, the firm expanded the program. They trained consultants on LinkedIn strategy, they provided resources and support, and firm-wide posting increased 5x. 5 times more consultants showing up consistently, 5 times more voices representing the firm in public. Think about what that means for a professional services firm. Instead of one managing partner being visible, you have 200 consultants, each visible in their own niche, their own market, their own geography, everyone solving the arithmetic problem in their own network, each one staying top of mind with their own 5,000 contacts. The compound effect at the firm level is staggering. You go from a handful of partners who are well known to an entire firm that's visible, trusted, and top of mind across every market you serve. One partner posting consistently is powerful. 200 consultants posting consistently is a competitive moat. I've seen this pattern at other major professional service firms too. The bottleneck is never the strategy. The bottleneck is getting the first few senior leaders to commit, see results, and create social proof inside the firm. Once 3 or 4 partners are seeing real inbound from LinkedIn, the rest of the firm pays attention. The results sell the program better than any internal presentation ever could. And here's the insight that convinced the other partners to buy in. The managing partner didn't pitch them on LinkedIn. He didn't give a presentation about social media strategy. He showed them his own data, his own engagement, his own inbound, and he said, "Do you want this?" That's it. The results sold the program. In business services, leadership by example is the only change management strategy that works. You can't tell a 55-year-old partner with 30 years of experience to start posting on LinkedIn, but you can show them what happens when their peer does it. Data is more persuasive than directives. Okay, 4 case studies, 4 different segments of business services. Let me pull the thread. The Rainmaker, an executive search partner, 5.5 times posting frequency, $400,000 in directly tied contracts, 97% follower growth. His insight: executive search is bought, not sold. You need to be the name they think of. The Specialist, a niche CEO, 100,000 views on one post, $300,000 contract. LinkedIn now accounts for 15% of her annual revenue. Her insight: being the recognized expert in your niche is the most defensible advantage in business services. The Community Builder, a veteran staffing CEO, 20 posts a month, over 100,000 followers, 687 average likes, never pitches. His insight: giving away value is the sales strategy. LinkedIn is a community, not a marketing channel. The Firm, a managing partner at a 5,000-person global firm. Engagement compounding year over year. Firm-wide posting up 5x. His insight, lead by example, and the firm follows. 4 different business services firms, 4 different niches, but they all have one thing in common. None of them pitch on LinkedIn. Not one. The Rainmaker shares perspective on leadership and talent strategy. The specialist shares expertise on her niche. The community builder gives away values to veterans and employers. The firm's managing partner leads in public with points of view on the industry. Company promotion. We just got a great search, or we're thrilled to announce, is the lowest performing content category across every business services leader we've studied. Every time, without exception. The content that drives business is the content that demonstrates why someone should trust you, not the content that tells them to. And there's a second commonality. All 4 invested in consistency over brilliance. None of them went viral overnight. None of them had a single silver bullet post that changed everything, except possibly the specialist. And even there, the compound effect only kicked in because she kept going after that post. She didn't post once and retire. She built on the momentum. Consistency over brilliance. That's the business services playbook. You don't need to write the best LinkedIn post ever written. You need to show up every week with something useful, something thoughtful, something that reminds your network you're still here, still sharp, still the person they should call. Here's the framework we use. 4 content categories, and I want to explain each one specifically for business services because the application is different from tech or healthcare. Industry thought leadership, about 40% of your content. Your credibility base, your point of view on the trends shaping your clients' businesses. For an executive search partner, this might be perspectives on CEO succession, talent market trends, or what boards are getting wrong. For a consultant, it's your point of view on the challenges your clients face. From a staffing CEO, it's the state of the labor market. This is the content that makes someone think, this person understands my world. Second bucket is leadership and career journey. That's about 30%. The trust builder, why you got into the business, the biggest lesson you've learned in 20 years, the search that went wrong and what it taught you, the client relationships that changed how you think, the mentor who shaped your career, the biggest mistake you made in your first year as a partner. In business services, people buy people. This category makes them feel like they know you. And in business services, feeling like you know someone is 80% of a decision. A potential client scrolling through your LinkedIn should finish reading a post and think, I'd want to work with this person. That's what leadership content does. It creates familiarity and trust before you've ever met. I'll give you a practical example. One of the search partners I work with posted about a time he had to tell a board chair that their preferred CEO candidate was the wrong choice. He described the conversation, the pushback, how he handled it, what happened. That post got 10 times more his normal engagement. Why? Because every potential client reading it thought, that's the kind of partner I want on my side. Someone who will tell me the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. That's a better sales pitch than any capability deck. Company promotion, 20%. Team wins, new hires, milestones, culture. This is important for showing your firm is thriving and growing. But it's the lowest performing category, and it's what most business services firms default to. The trap is thinking your placements and case studies are what people want to see. They are not. They're what you want to show. There's a difference. Work adjacent personal, 10% of the content. Your values, your family, your life outside of the firm, the smallest category, but the reach multiplier. Personal content drives 2.5 times the reach of industry content. And in business services, where trust is everything, the personal content is what makes people feel like you're a real person, not a firm logo. This framework maps directly to the business services relationship model. You're not running a demand gen funnel, you're maintaining relationships at scale. The industry content demonstrates expertise. The leadership content builds trust. The company content shows momentum. And the personal content makes all of it feel human. And it compounds. But in business services, the compound effect works differently than in other industries. In software, the compound effect is about building an audience of strangers who eventually become leads. In business services, the compound effect is about staying visible to people who already know you. Think about it. The Rainmaker's $400,000 in contracts didn't come from strangers who discovered him on LinkedIn. They came from people in his network who'd known him for years, but who hadn't heard from him recently. His content reminded him he existed. It kept him top of mind. And when the need arose, he was the first call. The specialist's $300,000 contract didn't come from a cold lead. It came from someone who saw her post, recognized her as the expert in that niche, and reached out. The content didn't create the trust from scratch. It activated trust that already existed. That's the business services compound effect. You're not building trust from zero. You're maintaining trust at scale. And that's actually easier than what tech companies have to do because your network already trusts you. They just need to remember you. The timeline in business services, months 1 through 3, you're building the habit, finding your voice. Your existing network starts to notice. Month 3, someone says, I've been seeing your posts. That's the first sign. Months 4 through 6, the conversations start. I saw your post and it reminded me we have a need. Or I forwarded your post to a colleague who's looking for exactly what you do. Or the one that always surprises people, I've been following your content for a few months and I'd love to talk about how you could help us. That last one is someone who was already in your network, already trusted you, but had no reason to reach out until your content gave them one. These are the moments where LinkedIn transitions from visibility to pipeline. Months 6 through 12, the inbound becomes consistent. You start hearing from people you haven't talked to in years, former clients who moved companies, former colleagues who now run businesses, people you met at a conference 5 years ago. Your network reactivates. The arithmetic problem starts to solve itself because LinkedIn has maintained the relationships you couldn't maintain manually. Year 2 and beyond, it compounds. Every post lands harder. Every piece of content reaches more people, and the gap between you and the competitors who aren't showing up gets wider every month. So let me land the plane. If you're a business services leader, here's what I want you to take away. You have a network of thousands of people who already trust you, who already know the quality of your work, who could hire you or refer you at any moment. And you're invisible to most of them, not because they forgot you, because you stopped showing up. An executive search partner tied $400,000 in contracts directly to LinkedIn. A niche CEO generated $300,000 from a single post, and LinkedIn now accounts for 15% of her annual revenue. A veteran staffing CEO built a community of over 100,000 followers by giving away value and never pitching. A managing partner at a 5,000-person firm compounded engagement year over year and inspired 200,000 consultants to follow. 4 different firms, 4 different niches, same result. The leader who stays visible wins the deals before the pitch room. The gap isn't closed in the pitch. It's created in the 18 months before anyone is even looking. And here's the part that should be uncomfortable for anyone listening who isn't doing this. While you're invisible between engagements, your competitor is posting twice a week. Their perspective is showing up in your clients' feeds. Their name is becoming the one people think of. Not because they're better than you, because they're more visible. And in business services, the first call goes to whoever stayed visible. Here's the exercise I'd encourage you to try this week. Think about the last 3 deals you won. How did they find you? I'd bet at least 2 of them already knew you. They were in your network. The question is, how many deals did you not win because the person with the need couldn't remember your name? You can't answer that question. Nobody can. That's the invisible cost of the arithmetic problem. The deals you never know about because you weren't top of mind when the need arose. LinkedIn solves the arithmetic, not by replacing relationships, by amplifying them, not by turning you into an influencer, by keeping you visible to people who already trust you. In business services, the first call goes to whoever stayed visible. Make sure it's you. Thanks for listening. I'm Justin Asiri, and this is Cultivating Executive Presence.